you ever put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of training in the build up to a race, had a great lead up, feeling prepared, ready to go, excited, only to get to the start line and have anxiety and nervousness overcome you, detracting from the joy and the excitement that you were once looking forward to in the build up? Well, you're probably not alone. We've all experienced it many times before, and sometimes even detracting from our performance because we let nerves and anxiety get the better of us on the start line, and therefore we don't get the opportunity to run and perform to our full potential. My name's Luke Pryor, and I've ran dozens and dozens of ultra runs and been on hundreds of start lines, and I'm going to give you in this video 3 simple strategies to get on top of your arousal levels and squash that anxiety so you can perform to your potential and actually embrace and fully enjoy your race day experience. You may have heard of the inverted U theory. The inverted U theory proposes that sporting performance increases as arousal levels increase. However, there is a point where we reach a threshold, and any increase in arousal levels beyond that threshold will detract from performance. So there is an optimal window, a Goldilocks just right window of arousal levels that lead to optimal performance. Hey, race day's here. Naturally, you should be pretty excited and amped up for the day. You put in lots of work to get there. You rock up to the start line. There's motivational music playing. There's hundreds and hundreds of people there, friends and competitors, and the energy is pretty palpable at most race start lines. They're often very busy and chaotic places to be, also very exciting, and there's a mixture of feelings. Everyone's there. There's a huge amount of nervous energy that you can feel off everyone else as well, so there's a little bit of a contagion effect there. We might be experiencing excitement, nervousness, fear, uncertainty, whole heap of anticipatory emotions that will be happening at the start line. You really don't need to be pumping Eye of the Tiger to get you even more psyched up. The natural energy of the start line and the anticipatory excitement of the event will be more than enough to get your arousal levels firing up. The longer the event, the more that statement rings true. Remember, you can't win your race in the first few kilometers, but you definitely can lose it if you particularly sprint off the start line, go out way too hard. Save your energy for later in the race when you need it. Now, each athlete will have subtle individual differences in terms of how they best manage their arousal levels. Strategy number 1, at the start line, arousal levels high, excitement levels are high. Often we can be breathing really short, sharp breaths, high in our chest, really shallow. We might even be hyperventilating or experiencing symptoms of panic, all activating the sympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of what we want to do when we're trying to conserve energy on the start of an ultramarathon. So, number 1 effective strategy in terms of value for money, time, efficiency, is being able to manage our breath. This is a really surefire way and a very quick way that we can decrease our arousal levels and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So, really effective. What we want to do, and the key here with this strategy, is to make sure the exhale is longer than the inhale. That is the most important takeaway for this strategy. Typically, I encourage people to take a nice breath in through the nose for a count of 2 to 4 seconds, hold that breath for 1 second, and then exhale for 5 to 6 seconds. You might engage in that strategy. You might only need to do 1 to 2 breaths if you're practice this strategy to downregulate your arousal levels. However, it is also helpful, if you need to spend a couple of minutes, just find a nice quiet place where you can stop, let your shoulders drop, let your muscles relax, and engage in a bit of a repetitive breathing pattern of that manner for 1 to 2 minutes, or until you feel a change in your arousal levels. That's strategy number 1. Now that our breathing is under control, what can we now do to ensure that we start our race well? Well, this brings us to strategy number 2. Lean on your support team. Really good to think ahead and plan this well out in advance. Make sure you have some good conversations with your support team. And that might be family, friends, your partner. Sit down with them and discuss and explain to them exactly how they can help you and what you need in specific moments. Now, if you're one that suffers from performance anxiety or nerves at the start of the race, then this is a key moment to discuss in depth with your support team. There's many different things and tools that a support team can help us with, but I'm going to introduce you to a psychological tool that is very effective in this situation. This psychological tool is typically applied to more serious and significant situations with individuals suffering pretty significant trauma, where they lose touch with reality and dissociate. And the psychological tool I'm going to introduce is called grounding. Grounding basically helps us regulate our breathing, engage with our five senses, and brings us back in touch with reality, taking us out of our overactive, really racing thoughts and really busy mind, and connecting us back, grounding ourselves within our body and also the here and now in that very present moment that we're in. Now, this tool is really beneficial for the start line because if you think about it, on a less significant element, at a start line, we can be racing around, there's high energy, we can be caught up in lots of anxious thoughts. Grounding is a great tool to have in your toolkit that you can pull out and utilize as well. Now, if you've got a support team, you can stack this habit so it's even more effective. Having a conversation, like we mentioned earlier, with your support team of how to apply this strategy is really important. There's definitely a number of ways that you can do a grounding activity. However, what I'm going to suggest with the support team might sound a little bit funny, but it's going to double up on two things. So the power of a hug is pretty powerful. There's a lot of research in terms of the value of just actually receiving a hug. It lowers our heart rate, lowers cortisol, gives us feelings of relaxation and calm, which is exactly what we want to engage in when we are at the start line of a race and the nerves and our arousal level is getting too high. So if possible, you can tee this up earlier with your support team to, if they notice you are stressing out a little bit or getting a little bit too amped up or starting to worry about things unnecessarily, they can grab you, give you a hug, even just put their hands on your shoulders, look you in the eyes and say, hey, you've got this. Kind of that physical touch will actually help you ground you. And if they do it with psychological intent behind that activity, you've already primed this behavior for you to know, hey, this is the signal for me to go, oh, get out of my busy head, let's calm, settle things down. So you can use your support team to take off some of that cognitive load for you and to help that reminder as well. Now, if you opt for the more intimate and value of a hug, then that's even better. Do it with a little bit of intent, make it a good few seconds hug from your partner or a good friend, and actually feel the embrace, feel your relaxation kick in, and a very simple and effective way to ground yourself into the present moment. Now, if you don't have a partner or someone there that can give you a hug or some physical touch in a consensual way, of course, you can simply do the breathing exercise that we've already done, ground yourself with the breath, and then using your five senses, name five things that you can see, four things you can feel, three things you can hear, two things you can smell, and one thing you can taste. So there we have it, a couple of tools that you can give your support team to help you there with strategy number two, particularly around the grounding. There is many different things, of course, that you can instruct your support team to support you with throughout the event, and particularly at the start line when things are likely to be a little bit more anxious and nervous. Definitely encourage you to pre your support team with those strategies and tools. And that maybe is something that's just, hey, engage me in some simple casual conversation about something unrelated to running, for example. Now, this brings us to strategy number three of how we can really manage the chaos and the excitement and the hype of race day and race day start lines in particular. Strategy number three is all about maintaining your energy. So when you're on the start line, amongst the chaos, you're amongst all your friends, everyone's up and about, lots of energy. And that's part of why we do it, right? It's fun. We do it because it's a big social event as well. So that's great to engage in that sort of stuff. But if you're quite anxious and nervous, that can feel very overwhelming. And then you can also get to the start line feeling like you've already ran 100 miles, completely drained and exhausted before the gun's even gone off. So this next strategy is all about how we can manage that excitement on the start line. Now, we've already covered breathing. Part of this strategy will be to just do some deep breathing. If you can find a little bit of time away from the chaos of the start line, then I encourage you to do that. Just move away to the side or find a corner somewhere where you can just have some alone time by yourself. That can be a really good way just to calm things down so you don't have all that social anxiety stuff there as well. But that's not always possible for particularly big events like UTMB where you've got to line up for hours at a time and you're in amongst thousands of people. But what you can do there is you can sort of go internal a little bit. So basically engage in some of that nice, calm, relaxing breathing, close your eyes, even just bow your head, or you can even crouch down pretending you're doing your shoelace up and just engage in some positive self-talk, something reassuring. Give yourself one or two instructions to focus on as well. So something that you can control, something that's under your influence. So a gentle reminder of, I'm going to keep it at this X pace when the gun goes off. I'm not going to go out too hard. Just keep it nice and relaxed and easy. Just some positive, calming, reassuring self-talk. Really valuable at the chaos of that start line when everyone else is buzzing around. It's also when we can fall into traps around self-doubt too, because we start talking to people and they're like, oh, you've done heaps of training and done heaps of miles and heaps of vert, and all of a sudden we start questioning and doubting our own training as well, which can just be an unnecessary distraction. We can't change any of that by the time we get to the start line. And at the end of the day, who cares what anyone else is doing either? So it doesn't make any difference to our race. So that's just a really unhelpful energy drainer at the start line. So being aware of that and being able to engage in the 3 strategies that we've talked about can be super helpful. So we've covered 3 strategies to downregulate your arousal levels, but what if we need to upregulate our arousal levels? So let's have a look at some quick fire ways to upregulate our arousal levels, get us excited, wake us up, increase our awareness if we need to. Okay, these strategies are going to keep them quick and short and fast, just how we want it to be when we need to upregulate our arousal system. First one, ingest some food or caffeine. Simple, effective, helps us switch back on, bit of a positive mood booster as well. Engage in conversation if you can. You might have a pacer, might be other athletes around that you can engage with. Definitely encourage that, and this is the key time to do that. I've even talked out loud to myself on a number of ultras when I've been really tired, middle of the night, have engaged in some talk to yourself, a little bit funny, have a little bit of laugh, giggle at yourself, the absurdity of what you're doing. Great time to embrace some of that. Crank that music, put the headphones on, sing out loud if you have to. Don't worry about the native animals and the other competitors around you. They'll enjoy it. You'll get a laugh out of it. Music's a great one for lifting that mood, switching back on, and particularly if it's some motivational stuff or an upbeat tempo music that you enjoy, that's another great tool to increase that arousal level. Another quick strategy to do, and this is really effective, particularly if you've been kicking some rocks, tripping over those tree roots that we spoke about, engage in a few really short running drills. I typically go for butt kicks or high knees, and I might only do it for 2 to 5 seconds just to switch back on that nervous system. This gets me going again, switches those muscles back on, wakes up the nervous system, and I notice after that that I stop kicking and tripping over everything that is possible to trip over once I've done that. You might also engage in some really short strides, could even be 20 meters of just getting that little quick spike in your heart rate. Really good strategy just to switch back on, particularly if you've been running really slow and long for a long time. This is a great time to reconnect with your why. If you've made your why deep and compelling enough, it will be motivating when you remind yourself that deep in the hurt and the pain cave of an ultra marathon, and that will spike a little bit of adrenaline and excitement, increase that arousal system. There you have it, a number of simple and effective strategies that you can use to manage your arousal levels at the most crucial times you need during your events. If anxiety is something you've struggled with before and something that you continue to struggle with, and you want to beat performance anxiety, get back the joy of racing and run to your full potential, then I've created a free guide that you can click on the link below to access that. Let me know how you get on with it. Happy trail running, and see you out in the trails.